Howdy, folks. Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer, and it is our recap of our Dolmenwood D&D campaign, which we use the Old School Essentials rule set for. If you are not caught up, you are welcome to go back on the playlist and watch whatever you need to get yourself caught up to this point. This is episode 7 in a series. So, where we had left off, we were exploring these mines that originally we understood as being the lair for the dragon that we discussed previously, where our group had slain the dragon. But after that, we decided, well, we'll go back into these mines and see if we can get any treasure and whatnot. And so on our last, at the end of our last session, we had found some treasure. We had dealt with some monsters and stuff like that, and we were still dealing with how to get this pile of treasure out and so forth. So at the beginning of this session, we decided, well, we're going to pack up whatever we can, and we're going to try and get out of here and get to a town. So as we were leaving the mines, we had a couple different things that occurred. We did have a mole creature that appeared. However, it had a collar on as if it were some type of pet, and it was not aggressive. And so our other fighter, Randy Midnight, he decided to try and take it as a pet. And so he has this cool little mole creature now following him around because he was feeding it to try and get it to, get acclimated to him and so forth. And it seems to be working. So that happened. And there was also a green slime that appeared. And again, Randy Midnight, it latched onto him. And so we were trying to figure out, okay, what do we got to do? And somebody finally figured out, well, we got to try and burn it. And so from different angles, we were all trying to use torches to burn this thing off, and we were finally successful. But it took a toll on old Randy Midnight. It was pretty nasty. And we get out of the mine, and we head on to decide whether we're going to go to, are we going to go back to Brandonsford, which is a town that we kind of started from, or are we going to go to the bigger city, Prigwort, which we had all heard about. And we basically made the determination that they were equal in distance, So we decided, well, let's go check out the big city. We haven't been there, let's go there. And so we did. So now this won't be a very long update because a lot of this took place in town, and there wasn't a whole lot of adventure or anything else like that going on. More administrative stuff that needed to be taken care of, characters shopping and that kind of stuff. But along the way, it took about 2 or 3 days to get there, we had some random encounters. And one of the random encounters was these little things called ratlings. And they're little rat-faced creature type things. And there was a whole bunch of them. We got attacked by those. And my character, Zwei, he did pretty good. Even though he was only first level. Everybody else is like second or third level at this point. And he did pretty good. He was hitting pretty hard, and so he was earning his keep there. And those things, by the way, they weren't just these little rattling things. They were these rattling things that had somehow consumed some type of hallucinogenic, because they were showing signs of hallucinating and so forth. And therefore, there was no morale check. Because, I mean, you could do a morale check, but it didn't matter because they're tripping balls. So they're just going to keep attacking. And so we ended up having to fight all of them and defeat all of them because they got hold of some hallucinogenic mushrooms or something. And this is the land of mushrooms. I mean, there's all different sorts of mushrooms and fungi and everything else and herbs and so forth out there. And we know this from the fact that we have to go forage for some of these things, trying to find ones that will heal us. So we made the, determination that that's probably what these things were out there eating wild mushrooms and so forth and got into some hallucinogenic ones, and therefore that's why they were acting the way that they were. So we end up dealing with that, and then we finally make it to town, and this town, Prigwort, is considered a large town in the Dolmenwood campaign setting. However, we find out very quickly that it's not your traditional town as a lot of us know from, say, Dungeons and Dragons, whether it's Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk or wherever. There's a lot of differences here. One of which is that, in fact, that they do use gold pieces, etc., for currency and everything like that. Even though this is a large town, there's nothing like a bank. The banking system hasn't been determined yet, or created, or established, or whatever word you want to use, because we were all hoping, that we took quite a bit of gold out, of that mine, and we're thinking it would be nice to put it somewhere safe in some type of bank or something, which is the norm in something like Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk. It's not the norm in Dolmenwood. So we're having to deal with lugging around literally, pounds and pounds of coins, which cause encumbrance. They can cause encumbrance and so forth. And it's just very clumsy when you're trying to deal with vendors and so forth. And you're talking about significant amounts, and everything. So that's one difference with the Dolmenwood campaign, is that you're dealing with, there's not really a banking system. So you got to keep that in mind. So bags of holding, if such a thing exists in the Dolmenwood, will be highly sought after. I mean, they're normally highly sought after, but in a system where you don't have any way to bank your money, you definitely need a bag of holding. So the other thing that once we got there that my character Zvi was trying to do was, he is when I rolled for his secondary skill, he rolled as a blacksmith, or not a blacksmith. Take that back, an armorer. So he can work on his own armor. And as a matter of fact, part of his backstory is that when he served in the military, the suit of armor that he has, he helped make it, and as he was learning the trade in the military to work on armor and so forth, the master armor smith or whoever helped him, and that's how he has a suit of plate mail. So he wanted to just go visit the local armorer to try and freshen up his armor. Basically get out of it, clean it, polish it up, knock the dents out, do any patching that needed to be patched, etc. That kind of stuff. And he also has a two-handed silver axe, the one that my previous character who died, Eins. When Eins died, of course, the party had to take his possessions, and when Zvi joined the party, they provided him with the same axe. So my character does have this +1 magical silver axe, and it has a chink in it that was described to me by the DM under the previous character, and it's still there, and I want to get it repaired, but my character doesn't necessarily trust people that are strangers to him to just leave this awesome piece of machinery, or this piece of weaponry, to somebody to have them work on it. So he was going to try and pay good money to use somebody else's facilities there to work on it himself. They did not like that. The merchants of the town did not like that idea. So needless to say, he did not get to work on any of his stuff and so forth. So it's a different type of the Dolmenwood is different than other game worlds, and so I'm going to have to figure out wherever we end up as our home base, establishing my own little armor smith, blacksmith shop, or not necessarily a shop, but just a workstation for me, for my character to do that. And then, of course, I can also work on the other character's armor as well in the party. So kind of serving the whole party and so forth. So that's on the agenda at some point. But the other thing that we did while we were in town was we ended up conversing with people at the taverns and so forth, like you normally do, to try and find out, what rumors are abounding that about, things that adventurers might be needed for, basically some paying work. And we heard some different rumors and so forth. One of which was that there was uh, this NPC Lady Harrowman, who is who I was in service of in the military. Her whatever land that she had or whatever, um, I was assigned to that because I in my backstory the DM said that that's who. This is before we ever found out about this. That's was my backstory. So when we find out through a rumor that her daughter is missing, I immediately my character's advice says, well, I know that area very well. That's where I served in the military. Perhaps we should take on that quest or whatever. And the rest of the group, there were some other things that came up, and there was something about a wandering minstrel um, that is there's a reward out for him, but we decided that uh, we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna try and do this thing where we find this missing daughter of this noble. Um, so we decided to start, preparing by getting, adventuring gear, whatever we need, any shopping we need done, and so forth. And that was basically the session, because then the DM, once we made that decision, the DM has to go back and and start working on that part of the campaign once we made a decision which direction we're going to go in. So that was the extent of this. Was not a long session. This was us escaping the mines, having to deal with that green slime, Randy finding a pet mole, us figuring out how we're going to get all this gold and stuff, which we did, to the city, realizing, okay, we're going to have to deal with the amount of stuff we're trying to carry around because there's no bank to put it in. And then, those types of transactions through shopping and all that, finding out rumors and deciding where we're going to go. So, that is basically, in a nutshell, what has occurred. That's where we're at. That is the update. I will be doing a separate video today, this evening, my regular Beer 30 episode. And I've got a couple interesting things to talk about that I just doing some research that I found out today. So until then, we will catch you guys on the flip side.